Hey everyone, welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're sorry for the delay. They actually started late, and we just found out that President Trump is currently actually in the White House press briefing room with the press pool, but they will actually not be doing his speech live. So it's actually going to be a tape, and we will show it to you as soon as it is released pretty shortly. We're hoping that it's not too long. And then after that, I'll be doing a post show just about some of the different reactions to President Trump's press conference with President Vladimir Putin. There were lots of controversial reactions, as you guys know. So stay tuned and keep chatting, and we will bring it to you shortly.
Hey y'all, we're Diamond and Silk.
And you're watching the Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Right here, so make sure you stay tuned. You don't know what's good about to come up and I'm so excited. Let's watch.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and watching with us. We are still waiting for that video to be released of President Trump giving his address to the press. He is in the White House press briefing room with them right now, and we were told, along with many of the other news stations, that this would be live, so we apologize that it is not live, but it is something that they're recording, and we will show you after. We'll show you right after it's up, as soon as they post it, and then I will be doing a post show again after to share with you guys just a recap of what the president said at this little briefing, and also, I'll share with you some of the responses from both sides, Republican and Democrat, about his controversial summit with President Vladimir Putin. And so that will be very interesting. I can see all of you commenting right here, and our fantastic moderators encouraging you. For those of you who have not yet connected with me on Twitter, I would love to have you. My Twitter account is at Alyssa, ALYSSA RSBN, and so you can directly message me there, and then during that post show I will answer all of your questions to the best of my abilities. And I also want to know what you think about President Trump's stance and his comments in that press conference with President Putin. I want to know what you guys think as well. Your opinions are very valuable to me. So once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for staying tuned, and just keep hanging out. Enjoy getting to know each other in the chat room, and we will be sharing that video with you guys as soon as it is available to us.
Diamond and Silk.
And you're watching the Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Right here, so make sure you stay tuned. You don't know what's good about to come up, and I'm so excited. Let's watch.
I returned from Helsinki, Finland, and I was going to give a news conference over the next couple of days about the tremendous success, because as successful as NATO was, I think this was our most successful visit. And that had to do, as you know, with Russia. I met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in an attempt to tackle some of the most pressing issues facing humanity. We have never been in a worse relationship with Russia than we are as of a few days ago, and I think that's gotten substantially better. And I think it has the possibility of getting much better. And I used to talk about this during the campaign. Getting along with Russia would be a good thing. Getting along with China would be a good thing. Not a bad thing, a good thing. In fact, a very good thing. We're nuclear powers, great nuclear powers. Russia and us have 90% of the nuclear weapons. So I've always felt getting along is a positive thing, and not just for that reason. I entered the meeting with the firm conviction that diplomacy and engagement is better than hostility and conflict. And I feel that with everybody. We have 29 members in NATO, as an example, and I have great relationships, or at least very good relationships, with everybody. The press covered it quite inaccurately. They said I insulted people. Well, if asking for people to pay up money that they are supposed to pay is insulting, maybe I did. But I can tell you, when I left, everybody was thrilled, and that's the way this was too. My meeting with President Putin was really interesting in so many different ways, because we haven't had relationships with Russia for a long time. And we started. Let me begin by saying that, once again, the full faith and support for America's intelligence agencies. I have a full faith in our intelligence agencies. Whoops, they just turned off the light. That must be the intelligence agencies. There it goes. Okay. You guys okay? Good. That was strange, but that's okay. So I'll begin by stating that I have full faith and support for America's great intelligence agencies, always had. And I have felt very strongly that while Russia's actions had no impact at all on the outcome of the election, let me be totally clear in saying that And I've said this many times, I accept our intelligence community's conclusion that Russia's meddling in the 2016 election took place. Could be other people also. There's a lot of people out there. There was no collusion at all. And people have seen that, and they've seen that strongly. The House has already come out very strongly on that. A lot of people have come out strongly on that. I thought that I made myself very clear by having just reviewed the transcript. Now, I have to say, I came back and I said, what is going on? What's the big deal? So I got a transcript, I reviewed it. I actually went out and reviewed a clip of an answer that I gave. And I realized that there is a need for some clarification. It should have been obvious. I thought it would be obvious, but I would like to clarify just in case it wasn't. In a key sentence in my remarks, I said the word would instead of wouldn't. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't, or why it wouldn't be Russia. So, just to repeat it, I said the word would instead of wouldn't, and the sentence should have been, and I thought it would be maybe a little bit unclear on the transcript or unclear on the actual video. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be Russia. Sort of a double negative. So you can put that in, and I think that probably clarifies things pretty good by itself. I have on numerous occasions noted our intelligence findings that Russians attempted to interfere in our elections. Unlike previous administrations, my administration has and will continue to move aggressively to repeal any efforts and repel. We will stop it, we will repel it, any efforts to interfere in our elections. We're doing everything in our power to prevent Russian interference in 2018. And we have a lot of power. As you know, President Obama was given information just prior to the election, last election, 2016, and they decided not to do anything about it. The reason they decided that was pretty obvious to all. They thought Hillary Clinton was going to win the election, and they didn't think it was a big deal. When I won the election, they thought it was a very big deal, and all of a sudden they went into action, but it was a little bit late. So he was given that in sharp contrast to the way it should be. And President Obama, along with Brennan and Clapper and the whole group that you see on television now, probably getting paid a lot of money by your networks, they knew about Russia's attempt to interfere in the election in September, and they totally buried it. And as I said, they buried it because they thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win. Turned out it didn't happen that way. By contrast, my administration has taken a very firm stance. It's a very firm stance on a strong action. We're going to take strong action to secure our election systems and the process. Furthermore, as has been stated, and we've stated it previously and on many occasions, no collusion. Yesterday, we made significant progress toward addressing some of the worst conflicts on earth. So when I met with President Putin for about 2.5 hours, we talked about numerous things. And among those things are the problems that you see in the Middle East, where they're very much involved, we're very much involved. I entered the negotiations with President Putin from a position of tremendous strength. Our economy is booming, and our military is being funded $700 billion this year, $716 billion next year. It will be more powerful as a military than we've ever had before. President Putin and I addressed a range of issues, starting with the civil war in Syria and need for humanitarian aid and help for people in Syria. We also spoke of Iran and the need to halt the nuclear ambitions and the destabilizing activities taking place in Iran. As most of you know, we ended the Iran deal, which was one of the worst deals anyone could imagine, and that's had a major impact on Iran, and it's substantially weakened Iran, and we hope that at some point Iran will call us and we'll maybe make a new deal, or we maybe won't. But Iran is not the same country that it was 5 months ago. That I can tell you. They're no longer looking so much to the Mediterranean and the entire Middle East. They've got some big problems that they can solve probably much easier if they deal with us. So we'll see what happens. But we did discuss Iran. We discussed Israel and the security of Israel. And President Putin is very much involved now with us in a discussion with Bibi Netanyahu on working something out with surrounding Syria and specifically with regards to the security and long-term security of Israel. A major topic of discussion was North Korea and the need for it to remove its nuclear weapons. Russia has assured us of its support. President Putin said he agrees with me 100%, and they'll do whatever they have to do to try and make it happen. Discussions are ongoing, and they're going very, very well. We have no rush for speed. The sanctions are remaining. The hostages are back. There have been no tests. There have been no rockets going up for a period of 9 months. And I think the relationships are very good. So we'll see how that goes. We have no time limit. We have no speed limit. We're just going through the process. But the relationships are very good. President Putin is going to be involved in the sense that he is with us. He would like to see that happen. Perhaps the most important issue we discussed at our meeting prior to the press conference was the reduction of nuclear weapons throughout the world. The United States and Russia have 90%, as I said, and we can have a big impact. But nuclear weapons is, I think, the greatest threat of our world today. And they're a great nuclear power. We're a great nuclear power. We have to do something about nuclear. And so that was a matter that we discussed actually in great detail, and President Putin agrees with me. The matters we discussed are profound in their importance and have the potential to save millions of lives. I understand the many disagreements between our countries, but I also understand that dialogue and when you think about a dialogue with Russia or dialogue with other countries, but dialogue with Russia in this case, where we've had such poor relationships for so many years, dialogue is a very important thing, and it's a very good thing. So if we get along with them, great. If we don't get along with them, then we won't get along with them. But I think we have a very good chance of having some very positive things. I thought that the meeting that I had with President Putin was really strong. I think that they were willing to do things that, frankly, I wasn't sure whether or not they would be willing to do. And we'll be having future meetings, and we'll see whether or not that comes to fruition. But we had a very, very good meeting. So I just wanted to clear up. I have the strongest respect for our intelligence agencies headed by my people. We have great people, whether it's Gina, or Dan Coates, or any of them. I mean, we have tremendous people, tremendous talent within the agencies. I think they're being guided properly, and we all want the same thing. We want success for our country. So with that, we're going to start a meeting now on tax reductions. We're going to be putting in a bill. Kevin Brady is with us, and I might ask Kevin just to say a couple of words about that, and then we'll get back onto a private meeting. But Kevin, could you maybe give just a brief discussion about what we'll be talking about?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Thank you for having members of the Ways and Means Committee here today. You know, peace through strength is foreign policy that works, and it works best when America has a strong economy and a strong military. Under your leadership, House and Senate Republicans are delivering on both of them. Today is about how we can strengthen America's economy even more, and we think the best place to start is with America's middle-class families and our small businesses. So today we're here to talk to you about making permanent this tax relief. One, so they can continue to grow. Two, so we can add 1.5 million new jobs. And three, we can protect them against a future Washington trying to steal back those hard-earned dollars that you and Republican Congress has given them. So thank you very much for having us here today.
And the time of submittal, what would you think that would be, Kevin?
So we anticipate the House voting on this in September, and the Senate setting a timetable as well.
Well, that's great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. You just heard President Trump's pretty brief but very impactful speech to the American public, and we do apologize that it wasn't live. There was a little bit of wait time there, but we're still glad that you got to see it. So first, I'm going to, and I'm Melissa Ash if I didn't say it, I'm going to highlight some of the things he said, and then I'll be sharing with you some responses from both Republicans and Democrats about his original press conference with President Vladimir Putin after their summit yesterday. So I'm going to be sharing that with you guys, and of course, I love seeing your comments here. Make sure to ask your questions in the chat room. And there is some great discussion going on here. So if I miss any of it, I totally apologize for that. Just send them to my Twitter, which is @AlyssaRSBN, and I will see that and share the answer with you guys to the best of my abilities. Anyways, I'm very glad to have you guys here today. So first, I'm going to tell you some of the highlights of what you just heard during President Trump's speech. He said that his meeting with President Vladimir Putin was actually more successful than NATO. And he said that they talked about some of the most important issues facing humanity. He said he talked about this during the campaign, how getting along with Russia and China would be a good thing. And he said that he has good relationships with everyone in NATO, and the press said that he insulted people, but he actually just asked them to pay what they're supposed to pay. And since there was a lot of concern about it because of his remarks yesterday, he said, "I have full faith in our intelligence agencies. I accept our intelligent community's conclusion that Russian meddling could be others," and he said there was no collusion there. And then he said after reviewing the transcript, he realized there was need for some clarification. And one of the big things that kind of just changes everything, President Trump said that he said the word would, and he meant to say wouldn't, that he didn't see any reason why it wouldn't be Russia. And he said that this was just a double negative, but it really threw people off yesterday when he said, "I don't see any reason why it would be Russia." He meant to say, "I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be Russia that was interfering." And he said that the Russians attempted to interfere in our election, and that he will repel any further efforts to interfere in our elections. And also, I wanted to shout out, we got a donation from Tree Climbing and a couple donations from you before. Thank you so much for that. And also earlier, a $10 donation from Rick Moore. Thank you very much for that. We really appreciate you guys. And later on, I'll tell you about donations and how you can donate, and more importantly, why you can donate. But first, I want to keep going through this, just some of the highlights of what he said today. He said that the Russians did attempt to interfere in our elections, and that President Obama knew about Russia's attempt to interfere, but buried it because they thought Hillary Clinton would win. Also, just got a message over here on Twitter. Let's see, this is from KK. who says, when the light went out, President Trump said, intel from darkness to light. Yes, thank you. That was a very funny moment that he, tried to brush off and make a little bit lighter, and thankfully the lights came back on. And we just got a $20 donation from Ruth McAllister. Thank you very much for that. She says, thank you for covering this and for all you do. Please check your message. I want to send you all some gifts. Thank you so much, Ruth. We really appreciate you. And yes, if you want to just message me on Twitter about that to @AlyssaRSBN, you can definitely do that. Thank you very much for your sweet comment. And also, so more highlights, some different things that he said. The president said, we are going to take strong actions to secure our elections and to secure the process. And he spoke of how himself and President Putin had spoken of Iran and destabilizing nuclear activities. And he said, as you know, we have ended the Iran deal, one of the worst deals anyone could have. He said they're not the same as they were 5 months ago, and they have a long way to go. And he said that they also discussed Israel and the security of Israel. And he said one of the major topics that they had, of course, was North Korea and its need to remove nuclear weapons. And he said that discussions are ongoing and they're going very well, but that there is no need for speed in the North Korea discussions because no rockets have gone up for 5 months and President Putin is with the US in this. And then he said that President Trump said the most important topic that was discussed was the reduction of nuclear weapons around the world. And he said some of the matters they discussed that were profound. He said that all of the matters, that they discussed are profound in importance and have the ability to save millions of lives. He said the discussion with Russia is a very important thing and a great thing, and that there's a very good chance of having some positive things come out of this discussion, and that they were willing to do things, meaning Russia, that he did not know they would be willing to do. And he concluded by saying that he has the strongest respect for his intelligence agencies before moving on and letting Republican Representative Kevin Brady from the House Ways and Means Committee introduce how they're about to meet right now and talk about tax relief. So we will, of course, keep you updated on that as well. Sorry, I am getting these screens together. Just got a $199 donation from Pat E. Thank you so much for that, Pat. We really appreciate you and are not able to do this without you. And I know I say that a lot. We're not able to do this without you. And you guys are probably like, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to tell you. So we are a Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're a small company. We only have a handful of employees, and we travel to Trump rallies all around the country, and those are very expensive, even just being at a minimum of $5,000 each, and it does go up depending on where the rally is and how many people we're sending. And so we really appreciate your donations so that we're able to get to these rallies all around the country, and also pay our employees as well for their hard work, because we are completely donor funded, and we really appreciate your donations, and we're not able to go to these rallies without you. Of course, we have expensive equipment as well that we take with us to these rallies and have to maintain. Also, we just got a $9.99 donation from Holy Moly Donut Shop. Thank you so much for that. Who says, good job, buddy. You get one free bear claw every lunch break. Those are very good. I really do like those. So thank you very much, Holy Moly. Really appreciate that. And in case you guys are wondering, or if you're new to Right Side, welcome. We're so glad to have you here today. I'm going to tell you the different ways that you can donate and support us and really make it possible for us to go to these rallies around the country and really just show you all of President Trump's supporters. That's something that Right Side is very famous for, is just showing the crowds, because many of the other mainstream news stations do not show the crowds, and that's something that we are very just well known for. So the first way you can donate, you can, and I see your comment, swoosh for Trump, give Tom O'Neill a raise. Tom rocks. He does. He's very fantastic. Definitely a fan favorite, one of our reporters. And he actually started out as a fan, and he would just help us by grabbing people from the crowd for us to interview. And then he eventually became a reporter just because he's so knowledgeable about local politics, and he's involved himself in Ohio. So anyways, stay tuned to hopefully see Tom at the next rally. So the different ways that you can donate, and Light Switch, we are wondering where it is as well. We're not sure yet, but we will keep you updated as soon as we know. And speaking of Tom, just got a $10 donation from Tom O'Neill. Thank you so much, Tom. You are just paying yourself. And he said the very fake news is Russia to destroy President Trump. Thanks, RSBN. Alyssa kicks ash. Thank you so much, Tom. Really appreciate you and your pun there, which of course I've used before. Anyways, so, and we also have our fantastic moderators commenting here the different ways that you can donate. So the first one, you can just click the $sign right here in the YouTube chat, and it'll come up just like this one did in a bright color with a special message. We just got €5 from Shane Davis, who says, thank you for your dedication and work to provide us with the truth. Thank you so much for that, Shane. We really appreciate you. And anyway, so you can click the $sign right here in the super chat, and we get to keep 70% of that, and the other 30% goes to YouTube. So it's not how we're able to get the most bang for our buck, but it is one of the fun, easy ways, and we're very thankful any way that you would like to donate. And also, I will actually show you guys how to do it online as well on our website. And a $199 donation from Debo. Thank you very much for that. So I am switching it over right now. And here is how you can donate on our website. So you just go to rsbnetwork.com. And then you click donate right here at the top on this red bar. And we just got a $10 donation from Light Switch. Thank you very much for that, Light Switch. We really appreciate you. And there are a couple different ways to donate on our website. You can click right here to donate to PayPal with a credit card, and you just enter that amount. And you enter your debit or credit information, your billing address, and of course your contact information. And we do get to keep about 90% of that. So that's a little bit more than YouTube. And then of course, if you want to become a patron, you can donate monthly on patreon.com, and that's Patreon with an E, patreon.com/RSBN. You can donate there and get fun things like hats and mugs and pens and pencils and stickers just to remember us throughout the day, and always remember to watch us. And of course, if you are not comfortable donating online, we completely understand that. You can also send right here to our address, which you can see on the screen. Sorry, it's cutting off a little there. There we go. And it is 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama 36830. And that is how you can donate directly to us. And it is very heartwarming just to receive your letters and suggestions and just telling us what we really mean to you guys and what RSBN means to you and how it can help you. We really appreciate that. And of course, you just write the check out to RSBN. And another donation, $1.99 from Tree Climbing. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate you. And it looks like I just got a couple Twitter questions, so I am going to share those with you guys and answer your questions. Yes, a recap from Ronnie Mercer. He says, with just a list of some leaders: Comey corrupt, Strzok corrupt, Page corrupt, McCabe corrupt, Brennan corrupt, Clapper corrupt, Obama very corrupt. And he said, can anybody blame President Trump for not trusting the intelligence community? I don't. Thank you very much for that, Ronnie. I really appreciate your feedback and definitely agree with you there. And Kay, I know you sent me a picture and it's not letting me see it yet. One second, I'm trying to fix that setting, Twitter, so I'm able to see it. Okay, yes, it's a meme that was already created, and I will show this to you guys. I don't know if you created this meme yourself, KK. Thank you for that. It says, I have full faith in our intelligence agencies, and just how when he said that, it went dark and then went light again. So that was a little bit ironic, but thank you for that, KK. Okay, so now I want to get into just some of the responses and feedback to President Trump's original press conference with President Vladimir Putin. So bear with me here. I'm pulling it up. I apologize. It's taking a second. So first, obviously, there were some Republicans, top Republicans in Congress, that were deeply troubled by his original comments. Now, one that was very notable in the media today was House Speaker Paul Ryan, who actually contradicted several comments that the president made during his Helsinki news conference, most notably backing the U.S. intelligence community assessment that Russia meddled with the 2016 U.S. presidential election. And he said there is no question that Russia interfered in our election and continues attempts to undermine democracy here and around the world. And he said that is just the finding of the American intelligence community, but also the House Committee on Intelligence. He continued and said the president must appreciate that Russia is not our ally. There is no moral equivalence between the United States and Russia, which remains hostile to our most basic values and ideas. The United States must be focused on holding Russia accountable and putting an end to its vile attacks on democracy. And then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell also spoke briefly with reporters on Monday, giving his support to the U.S. Intelligence Committee. And he said, I said a number of times, and I will say it again, the Russians are not our friends, and I entirely believe the assessment of our intelligence community. And then he didn't answer a question on whether or not he would tell the president that he disagreed with him. And just second, I want to make sure I have this Twitter window up for your comments and questions. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I wanted to pull that back up because interacting with you all is the most important part of my job, other than just telling you the facts and the news. So please, if you haven't yet, reach out to me on Twitter. My handle is @AlyssaRSBN, and I will answer your questions the best I can as long as they are appropriate. Also, I would love to hear about your opinions and what you guys think today about how President Trump handled his speech coming back off of the press conference with Vladimir Putin. And yes, I know some of you were saying your comments earlier, but I would love to see them now as well. So please share your opinions and questions, of course, as well. And let's see, we also had Senator John McCain, of course, who is, as you know, an Arizona Republican who has consistently criticized the president. And he said that President Trump's comments were one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president in memory. And now remember, there are a lot of President Trump's supporters as well that just did not agree with his statements during the press conference with President Vladimir Putin. So remember, they might not support what he said in those moments, but they still support him, and that is okay. So if you are one that supports him but may not support what he said, comment that right here. Or if you maybe actually do support what he said and think that the press conference went positively, please comment that here as well. And like I mentioned before, you can also message me on Twitter @AlyssaRSBN, and I will interact with you there as well. So we also had the Senate Foreign Relations Chairman, Bob Corker, who said about the president, made us look like a pushover, and that President Putin was probably eating caviar on the plane home. And then he said, I was very disappointed and saddened with the equivalency he gave between them, meaning the U.S. intelligence agencies, and what Putin was saying. And of course, then there was also, this was in the media a lot. Senator Ben Sasse from Nebraska, from Nebraska, issued a blistering statement just minutes after the press conference was finished up. And he said that President Trump's statements held both countries responsible for the deteriorated relationship between the United States and Russia. And then he said, this is bizarre and flat out wrong. The United States is not to blame. America wants a good relationship with the Russian people, but Vladimir Putin and his thugs are responsible for Soviet-style aggression. When the president plays these moral equivalence games, he gives Putin a propaganda win that he desperately needs. And then, of course, there were some Republicans as well that were deeply troubled by President Trump's statements. One being Senator Tim Scott, a South Carolina Republican, who said the president's summit in Helsinki today should have been an attempt at confronting Russian aggression, hacking, and election interference. And then he said in a tweet, Russia is not a friend or ally. As Americans, we stand up for our interests and values abroad, but I fear today was a step backwards. And then Representative Liz Cheney, who is a Wyoming Republican, said, as a member of the House Armed Services Committee, I am deeply troubled by President Trump's defense of Putin against the intelligence agencies of the U.S. and his suggestion of moral equivalence between the U.S. and Russia. Russia poses a grave threat to our national security. And then, of course, we also had Republican Trey Gowdy, who, as you know, was among the Republicans that were leading last week's sharply partisan, very heated hearing that was even called a circus by some of FBI agent Peter Strzok. He made clear on Monday that he did not see Russia as a U.S. ally. He said, I am confident former CIA Director and current Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, DNI Dan Coats, Ambassador Nikki Haley, FBI Director Chris Wray, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, and others will be able to communicate to the President. It is possible to conclude Russia interfered with our election in 2016 without delegitimizing his electoral success, because as you know, and President Trump said again and again, that there was no collusion with Russia interfering in his election, that there was no collusion there. And of course, Maine Republican Senator Susan Collins said that she sharply disagreed with President Trump's comments. She said it's certainly not helpful for the president to express doubt about the conclusions of his own team. And then she said he assembled a first-rate intelligence team handled by Dan Coats, and I would hope that he would take their analysis over the predictable denials of President Putin. And then, of course, Senator Lindsey Graham, who, as you know, is a Republican from South Carolina, and he's had a close working relationship with President Trump on issues related to healthcare and tax reform, tweeted that the summit was a missed opportunity. And back when I was an intern, this is just a side note, for a station in South Carolina, I actually had the opportunity to interview Senator Lindsey Graham, which was really cool. And anyways, he tweeted that it was a missed opportunity by President Trump to firmly hold Russia accountable for 2016 meddling and deliver a strong warning regarding future elections. And he said this answer by President Trump will be seen by Russia as a sign of weakness and create far more problems than it solves. And then he also said about the soccer ball that yesterday you actually saw President Trump receiving from President Putin because the World Cup will be held here in America in 2026. Graham said, "If it were me, I'd check the soccer ball for listening devices and never allow it in the White House." And then Arizona Senator Jeff Flake, who is a Republican who has actually been a constant critic of Donald Trump, called the president's performance shameful. And in a tweet, he said, "I never thought I would see the day when our American president would stand on stage with the Russian president and place blame on the United States for Russian aggression. This is shameful." And then also Republican Representative Will Hurd, who is actually a former undercover CIA officer, expressed some shock at President Trump's attitude towards Putin and Russia. And he said, which this was actually a statement that he said on CNN's The Lead with Jake Tapper, "I've seen the Russian intelligence manipulate many people in my career, and I never thought the US president would be one of them." And then also you saw some Republicans that were actually showing support for the US Intelligence Committee, such as Illinois Republican Representative Adam Kinzinger, who actually called President Trump's comments rebuking the U.S. intelligence community's assessment a disservice, though he did not mention President Trump by name. And then he later tweeted, "The American people deserve the truth, and to disregard the legitimacy of our intelligence officials is a disservice to men and women who serve this country. It's time to wake up and face reality. Putin is not our friend, he's an enemy to our freedom." And then one comment President Trump said that there was just a lot of controversy over was that he said, "I have confidence in both parties," when he was talking about Russia and the U.S. intelligence community. And then he said, this is another statement that was very controversial. He said, "I have real confidence in my intelligence people, but I must tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial." And then also, Utah Republican Senator Orrin Hatch, who is actually a key Trump ally, he issued a statement actually backing the intelligence community, but he didn't directly criticize the president. And he said, "Russia interfered in the 2016 election. Our nation's top intelligence agencies all agree on that point. From the president on down, we must do everything in our power to protect our democracy by securing future elections from foreign influence and interference, regardless of what Vladimir Putin or any other Russian operative says. I trust the good work of our intelligence and law enforcement personnel who have sworn to protect the United States of America from enemies, foreign and domestic." And then also New Jersey Republican Frank Lobondio, he actually chairs the House CIA subcommittee, said that President Trump missed an opportunity to grill Vladimir Putin. And he said, "I strongly disagree with the statement that Russia did not meddle in the 2016 election. With all I have seen on House Intel and Comm and additional indictments of 12 Russian officers last week, it is clear Russia's intentions. President Trump missed an opportunity to hold Putin publicly accountable." And yes, I see your comments funky blue. It doesn't matter what President Trump does. They will always talk badly about him. That is definitely true. And $5 from War Eagle 03942. Thank you very much for your donation, War Eagle. We really appreciate you. And of course, you saw some Republicans that were very upset. There were some Democrats that were outraged as well. One of the main ones being in the headlines, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who said that Trump took the word of the KGB over men and women of the CIA, and then he called Republicans to speak out. He said, in the entire history of our country, Americans have never seen a president of the United States support an American adversary the way President Trump has supported Putin. And he said this at a news conference. And then the Senate the Senate Intelligence Committee Vice Chairman Mark Warner, who is actually a Democrat from Virginia, tweeted for the president to side with Putin over his own intelligence officials and blame the United States for Russia's attack on our democracy is a complete disgrace. Also, we just got a $199 donation from Debbie Presley. Thank you so much for that. We really appreciate you and all of your support so that we are able to travel to rallies all around the country. And let's see, also Senator Elizabeth Warren, who, as you know, is a Democrat from Massachusetts who strongly opposes President Trump, said once again, at Real Donald Trump, because she was doing this over Twitter, takes to the national stage to embarrass America, undermine our institutions, weaken our alliances, and embrace a dictator. Russia interfered in our elections and attacked our democracy. Putin must be held accountable, not rewarded. Disgraceful, she tweeted. And then Tim Kaine, who is a Democrat from Virginia, tweeted that someday the U.S. would turn the page on this dark chapter, but that it would not be easy. And then also we had Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, who called President Trump's statements shocking and dismaying, and in fact, an appeasement. And he said, Donald Trump was a patsy, a pushover, and a puppet, not a president. He, in effect, instead of putting America's interests first, he blamed America first, and he blamed everyone except Russia and himself. And he said this on the CNN's Situation Room. And then Democratic Representative Jim Hines, also of Connecticut, said that the president's actions during the summit really showed that he simply doesn't care, which is not true. And he said that if the president had been firm, maybe Putin would have taken a step back. But what instead resulted was a truly disgraceful performance that puts our national security at risk. And also, Senator Chris Murphy's mouth was still agape by the time of his appearance on CNN's The Lead with Jake Tapper, namely because it seemed to be a settled fact by everyone in the U.S. who knows what's going on that the Russians had interfered with the 2016 elections, despite the Trump statement at the summit. But the president has corrected himself for this today, saying that he meant to say he didn't see any reason why it wouldn't be Russia interfering, than that he meant to, well, that's what he meant to say. But yesterday he said that he didn't see any reason why Russia would be interfering. And so he corrected himself today. So I am very interested to see what their reactions will be today after President Trump's quick statement that he made. And just double checking Twitter to make sure you guys have no questions or comments there. I also want to hear your thoughts on President Trump's performance so far, just some of his accomplishments. One of my favorite questions to ask people are, what are your favorite accomplishments that the president has made? And I also want to hear your thoughts on his press conference with President Vladimir Putin and on his statement today. So there was a lot of negativity there. I do realize that. And so I want to show you some positivity as well. Senator Rand Paul defending the president and talking about how open dialogue is good. And this is from realclearpolitics.com. So I am going to show you guys this clip real quick. Sounds good?
I think, simplistic thinking that leads to war. We should continue to have conversation even with our adversaries, probably most particularly with our adversaries.
I got to tell you, Senator, it's not just Democrats. It's a whole bunch of your fellow Republicans who think it was a mistake, especially now with hindsight. And I also have to tell you, based on everything we're hearing, a lot of his own national security, military, and diplomatic personnel, they also agree this was a huge blunder on the part of the President of the United States to exit from this meeting with Putin the way he did. It's going to cause enormous grief for the president and for his administration. But I'm grateful to you, as usual, for joining us and expressing your views. Thank you very much.
You could see him right there just talking about how the dialogue was a very good thing, and that was an interview with CNN's Wolf Blitzer. So sorry to get something from CNN. I know you guys hate that, but I just wanted to show you his positive comments about President Trump's speech. And also last night, Fox's Chris Wallace had an interview actually with Vladimir Putin, and there were some interesting moments there as well. So I have an article from nymag.com, and I want to share with you guys some of those key moments from that conversation. But let me see. Also, I just got a message from Brass or P-Cell on Twitter. Thank you so much for that. I want to share that with everyone. He said, so much opposition out there now that the president rectified his statement. What are all these people going to say? But there is one thing we learned from this. Liberal journalists know how to push their cause more than lazy conservative journalists. Just days ago, Stephen Cohen said Peter Strzok deserved a Purple Heart for insulting typical Americans. Where were the conservative journalists to put other liberals on the spot by asking them if they agree with what Stephen Cohen said? Thanks for covering this, Alyssa. Thank you so much, P-Cell. I really appreciate that. And I, did see some conservative journalists pushing this, just saying how it was an absolute disgrace, especially on Fox News, but I do agree that they needed to push it more. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, P-Cell. So also back to these tense moments from President Putin's news grilling by Chris Wallace. So just a little bit of background. Fox News aired Putin's interview with Chris Wallace, in which the Fox News Sunday host he attempted to hold the leader accountable on everything from the U.S. election hacking to hinting at his ability to nuke Florida to killing his opponents within Russia. And it was, many said it was kind of satisfying to see President Putin squirm, even if he mostly filibustered and offered absurd justifications for Russia's actions. So some of the most interesting moments, one was where Chris Wallace tried to make Putin hold the indictments. So just minutes into the interview, he brought up the allegations of Russian interference in the U.S. election, and then he produced a copy of the indictment that Special Counsel Robert Mueller had issued on Friday, accusing 12 Russian intelligence operatives of hacking Democratic targets. And President Putin actually started laughing as Wallace described the allegations, and Wallace said, "You smile, let me finish. You say these units were involved in hacking into Democratic Party computers, stealing information, and spreading it to the world to try to disrupt an election. May I give this to you to look at, sir?" And then President Putin paused. He motioned for Wallace to put the document on the table between them, but he did not want to touch it. So that was a very awkward moment. And then, even though he kept saying that they were not involved, President Putin actually suggests that the hacking was fine because it exposed real emails. And he tried to dodge Wallace's questions on the indictment with actually a lengthy multi-part answer. And while he insisted that Russia has never interfered with the internal affairs of the United States, let alone for its elections, he kind of, like I said, eventually offered what sounded like just a justification for the hacking. And he said the idea about hacking an email, the idea was about hacking an email of a Democratic candidate. Was it some rigging of facts or some forgery of facts? That's the important thing that I'm trying to do. Point that I'm trying to make. Was any false information planted? No, it wasn't, Putin said. And he also added that the hackers entered a certain email account, and there was information about manipulators conducted within the Democratic Party to incline the process in favor of one candidate. And he was referring, of course, to the emails indicating that top party officials preferred Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. And Chris Wallace interrupted President Putin several times to try to get him to answer the question, leading them to arguing through the interpreters actually at one point. And Wallace said, "You're indicating that they stole real money, not counterfeit money. Are you saying it's okay because facts that they took from the DNC, from John Podesta, it was their real emails, so it's okay to hack and spread this information out and interfere with the election?" And Putin just reiterated his point, asking Wallace to be patient. And he actually said, "If you don't like my answer, you can just give it to me straight away and I'll just keep silent. And if you want Americans to listen to my opinions, could you please wait for a little bit?" And then President Putin also said that Trump, when he was a businessman, was not important enough to spy on. So at their press, so Wallace said, at their press conference that President Trump spent more time criticizing the Democrats and asking about the Democratic server than he did criticizing Russia and asking about the GRU. And then Wallace then segued into theories on why President Trump may want to annoy President Putin, and asked if the Russian leader has a compromat on him, or is it that as a skilled politician and former KGB officer, you know how to play him, use phrases like fake news and deep state. And then Putin actually said, here's a little bit of the transcript here. I don't want to insult President Trump when I say this, and I may come off as rude, but he announced that he will run for presidency. He was of no interest for us. He was a rich person, but while there's plenty of rich persons in the United States, he was in the construction business. He organized the beauty pageants, but no, it would never occur to anyone that he was thinking of running for president. And then also one of the tense moments was when Chris Wallace confronted Putin on threatening to nuke Florida. And President Putin claimed that there's no indication that the target is the United States because there was no caption there in that picture. And then there was another tense moment when President Putin compared murdering his critics to JFK and MLK assassinations. And it was towards the end of the interview when Wallace asked, why is it that so many of the people who oppose Vladimir Putin end up dead or close to it? And then he pointed to the former Russian spy, Sergei Skripal, who was a political opponent to Boris Nemtsov and an investigative journalist of Anna Politkovskaya. And Putin answered, well, first of all of us have plenty of political rivals. I'm pretty sure President Trump has plenty of political rivals. And then Wallace shot back, but they don't end up dead. And it was just a very awkward, kind of tense and inappropriate moment when President Putin said, haven't presidents been killed in the United States? Have you forgotten about, well, has President JFK been killed in Russia or in the United States or MLK? And what happens to the clashes between police and, well, civil society and some ethnic groups? Well, that's something that happens on U.S. soil. All of us have our set domestic problems. So that was a very heated interview, but of course, congrats to Chris Wallace just for doing it, for carrying it out, and for speaking boldly as well with a world leader that was very important and very interesting. So thank you so much for that. And I see some of your messages in here, but remember, I don't want to get off topic, but I do want to hear as well your thoughts and opinions of President Trump's statements at the summit with President Putin and about his comments today, kind of just to redeem himself. I see a good comment right here from Aaron Hopkins, who says, thank you, President Trump, for restoring jobs, opportunity, manufacturing, and small business. Thank you very much for that. And I don't mean to neglect you guys on Facebook either, so I'm going to double check and see what comments you have in the live stream. And I see your question, Yup 1562. How can we expect Putin to admit to meddling when all nations with the capabilities, including the U.S., do it also? Thank you for that, Yup. And I think the answer to that would just be because it was an election that makes it different, and it was a big deal. And, you know, since they do have solid evidence, this needs to come out. And President Putin did agree with President Trump that he would be just working with those that have been indicted because of a previous 1974 treaty that they have. So there should definitely be some progress there. And I am checking over here on Facebook just to check your comments here as well. And I am yes, I see your comment, Robert M. Easton Jr. Trump is making America safe again. And he says Putin has nukes and could easily make America unsafe. Sorry, I'm going through your comments here, but yes, thank you for all of those. Also, just got a message on Twitter from one of my favorite viewers who is super loyal, Nate Skate. Thank you very much for that. He said, no credit needed or mentioned, just info. Meanwhile, Air Force One to get a new paint job, just something patriotic. And I will show you guys a picture. This is how it is right now. But in an interview with CBS today, actually, the president said that it's going to be top of the line, the top in the world, and it will be red, white, and blue, which I think is appropriate. And he said that Boeing gave us a good deal and we were able to take that. And then he was asked if they would use the same baby blue colors, and they are not going to. So this current white, blue, and gray color scheme has actually been in use since 1962, when it was approved by President Kennedy and his wife Jackie Kennedy, and it's regarded as a design classic. And they also want to swap the military-style typeface used to spell out the words, the United States of America. And so you can see right there, JFK and his wife, Jackie, arriving off of Air Force One. So that'll be exciting, and we'll be very excited to share with you guys the new look of Air Force One after it's painted. So thank you very much for sharing that with me, Nate Skate. And it has been a great time sharing with you guys today. Just a wrap up of President Trump's quick press briefing and his press conference with President Vladimir Putin. And of course, if you have any other questions or opinions that you want to share with me, please message me on Twitter at AlyssaRSBN, and I would love to get back